Persona 4 Golden. What could I say that hasn't been said already? One of my favorite games of all time, and the game that made me happily spend over 150 hours of my life, with more probably coming in the future. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with this game and how it made me realize how powerful a video game can be. Now before we begin, let's talk a little bit about my journey into Persona. We all know how chaotic 2020 was, and without all that chaos, I probably never would have gotten to this amazing game series. So March hits and we have to quarantine. I was looking into games to play with all this newfound free time, and one of my friends recommends Persona 5. Problem is, I don't own a PS4. My brother does own one, and I convinced him to let me borrow it for a bit so I can try out this game, which seemed interesting to me. And with what my friend told me about it, I could sink a nice amount of time into it, which was exactly the type of game I was looking for. I got a PS4 and picked up the recently released Persona 5 Royal, and I was hooked from the first day. A couple weeks and 120 hours later, I finished Persona 5 Royal and I immediately wanted more. I spent some time on a New Game Plus, and soon after, Persona 4 Golden was released on Steam. I rushed to pick it up only to realize it was only available for Windows, and I am a Mac owner. I wouldn't be beat that easily. So I did some research and was able to boot camp my Mac, allowing me to run Windows in my Mac. My journey into Persona 4 Golden was about to begin. And first, let me tell you, going from the crisp, stylish, and new Persona 5 Royal back to the PS Vita days with Persona 4 Golden was a bit rough at the beginning, but I was able to quickly get used to it, and the game did not take long at all to get me hooked, the same as Persona 5 Royal. I loved the small town aspect of the game, making it feel way more personal than the larger scale of Persona 5 Royal. Now, before going forward with Persona 4 Golden, let me give you a brief summary of this game. Warning, I will be discussing spoilers in this video, so if you haven't played Persona 4 Golden, you probably should not be watching this video. You have been warned. Persona 4 Golden is an expanded re-release of 2008's original PS2 Persona 4. It was released in 2012 for the PS Vita, where it became one of the best-selling games on the Vita. But it's still released on the Vita, meaning it remained in relative obscurity until last year, when it was ported to the PC, much to the joy of many Persona fans in the world. Persona 4 Golden kicks off when the protagonist, canonically known as Yu Narukami, or in my playthrough known as Chad Cockcard, as I will be referring to him for the rest of the video. Mr. Cockcard has arrived to the small town of Inaba, where he will live with his uncle, the detective Dojima, and his cousin, the adorable Nanako, for a year while his parents are working overseas. The game does have a slow opening, but it perfectly weans you into this world, introducing you to important characters in the town of Inaba before the main plot starts to kick in. You meet the meat-loving dragon Chie Satonaka, the clumsy prince of Junes Yosuke Hanamura, and the quiet heiress of the Amagi Inn, Yukiko Amagi. I'll talk more about them and the other characters later. Anyway, the story kicks off with the murder of TV announcer Mayumi Yamano, with her body found hanging from an antenna in this otherwise quiet town. The high schooler who found the body, Saki Konishi, who Yosuke has a crush on, soon dies as well, with her body found the same way. The gang hears rumors of a so-called midnight channel, where if you check your TV at midnight, your soulmate is supposed to appear. Mayumi Yamano and Saki Konishi both appeared in the Midnight Channel before their death, so one thing leads to another, and Mr. Chad Cockcard realizes he can go into TVs, and him and Yosuke go inside to investigate, where they stumble across Teddy, a bear living inside the TV. Yeah, it can be kinda weird at times. Yosuke gets his persona by facing his own shadow, and afterwards Chie does the same thing. The game truly kicks off when Yukiko starts appearing on the Midnight Channel, and the gang have to go inside the TV to save her, and that's a pattern the game keeps up for most of it. Now I'm going to be focusing on three main things: the characters and the story, the music, and the gameplay. Let's start with the characters and story as a whole. Persona 4 Golden is a murder mystery, which keeps you guessing every step of the way while slowly and subtly giving you more hints as to who the killer is. The investigation team consists of 8 very different characters, making for very enjoyable group dynamics and making me always look forward to the different sections of the team just hanging out, such as the camp out, the beach trip, and many others spread out through the game. This game really makes you feel like you know these characters and they're really your friends. Now, ignoring how sad that sounded, It's insane how much I felt for these characters, and as the game kept coming closer to the ending, I kept wanting it more not to. Every character has their own problems and arc that they go through. Some of this is through the main story and some of it through the social link system where you spend time with the characters to develop your bond with them. I love the investigation team more than C's from Persona 3 or the Phantom Thieves from Persona 5. Whereas Persona 3's crew felt more like co-workers who formed bonds through their mutual goals. And Persona 5's gang felt like a series of coincidences brought these ragtag group of kids together to change the world. The investigation team's interactions let us really see and feel the bond they're forming throughout the game while they're trying to, as the song says, reach out to the truth. Not taking anything away from 3 or 5, as I also love both games and all the characters in both games. I just didn't bond with them as a group as strongly as I did with the Persona 4 group. With wildly different characters such as Kanji Tatsumi, the scary looking giant who's secretly a softie, to Naoto Shirogane, a detective prince who passes off as guy for most of the game due to the sexist nature of the Japanese police, to Teddy, a literal shadow who's a bear and a twink at the same time and is the horniest character I've ever seen.
Oh, don't be so shy! Smoochy, smoochy! Come on, please!
The game makes these characters work and makes us care for them and understand who they are. Now to talk a little bit more about the story. The investigation team rescues the rest of the team from the TV. First Kanji, aka the best boy, then Rise the idol, aka best girl. Then the game throws a red herring at you with Fish Eyes McGee. Then the last member of the investigation team, Naoto, who would be best girl if not for Rise. Now with the investigation team together, they bond to try to figure out who the real killer is. And finally, all hell breaks loose. And after receiving some threats in the mail, your uncle Dojima, the detective, sends the Chad to jail and poor innocent adorable Nanako gets thrown into the TV. Now, if you didn't complete that dungeon immediately to save Nanako, then something is wrong with you. The only excuse I can accept is that you took your time to listen to the amazing dungeon theme. Now, a bit more on that later. After saving Nanako, the team has to figure out who the killer is. And here's where one of the supporting characters through the game turns into the best character I've ever seen. Dun dun dun, Adachi. After a couple confrontations with Adachi and he runs off inside the TV, we chase after him and we finally defeat him and the game's over. Nope, you get an extra month and an extra dungeon with Marie, who I have not talked about, and is for a very specific reason, and that is because I don't care much about her. She was just kinda meh for me. Sorry to all the Marie fans out there. Her dungeon is pretty fun though. After her dungeon, the day has come. Mr. Cockhard's time to go back to the city. But oh wait, we still haven't figured out who's causing the Midnight Channel. Turns out it was the gas station attendant from the beginning of the game, and now we get an extra dungeon with the most eerie music ever. After a very climactic boss battle where everyone fucking dies, the chat goes full Cockhard mode and wipes it out. Now the game has ended. Oh wait, an epilogue that had me very confused the first time I played it because I didn't recognize Kanji for a second. And now, the game is actually over. Now to talk about what you'll be listening to for whatever amount of time you play the game. The music. I love this game's music so much that the highlight of my year so far has been the day the Persona soundtracks were released on Spotify. With such bangers as Signs of Love, Your Affection, Heartbeat, Heartbreak. It's an extremely funky soundtrack. The game really sets up your small town days with a sense of nostalgia and happiness related to our school days and hanging out with your friends. Then when you go into the TV to fight monsters, the vibe changes completely.
Careful! That enemy's immune to wind.
I remember when I first did the Yosuke boss battle, I was stuck with the The version of I'll Face Myself that they always put in after a shadow battle, I'll show it here, and it's just so badass. And don't tell me you almost didn't cry when you first heard Heaven. It's such an amazing song and so fitting with Nanako's character that's just so heartbreaking. I listen to the soundtrack and I feel like I'm back in Inaba with all my friends trying to solve the mystery. It's kind of sad really, but I love it. And every time I listen to A Corner of Memories, I long to be able to play this game again for the first time. Now let's get to what matters the most. Is the gameplay any good? Short answer, yes. Long answer, let me explain a little how the game works. The game is split in two. The turn-based dungeon crawling RPG and the social sim where you decide how to spend your time. The game sets a deadline, in this case being until it gets foggy and the person inside the TV dies. You have until that day to go save them. The game lets you do whatever you want with your days, but if the deadline passes and you didn't save the person, it's a game over. You go into the TV whenever you want, and here lies the turn-based RPG. You have different dungeons depending on who you're going to rescue, and you have to reach the top of each dungeon by making your way through floors whilst fighting enemies and conserving health and SP, which you use for your skills along the way. The combat system is the same one more system from other Persona games where you hit enemies' weakness and gain extra turns from it. I'm mostly going to be comparing to Persona 5 Royal and Persona 3 FES as they're the ones I've played. I think this game perfected 3's combat system. Obviously party control is a big deal and it's the only gripe I had with 3 FES. Also in FES, if you hit a multi-target skill and only one enemy had a weakness, you didn't get an extra turn. In 4 Golden, you do get an extra turn if it hits any weakness, and it's the same way in Persona 5. I really thought I was going to miss the baton pass feature from Persona 5, but it not being there didn't really bother me. The way that you attack is by collecting different personas and fusing them to make new ones. Only Mr. Cockhart can do this, as the rest of the party depend on just one persona who develops alongside their levels. The gameplay is a lot of fun, the battles aren't too long that they feel tedious, and having to look for weaknesses and switching personas keeps it from becoming stale. Now there are a few personas that can make the game a breeze, but on our first playthrough you'll be constantly fusing and making new personas. The game can be challenging at times, but once you get the hang of it and figure out that making new personas is key to many stressful battles, you'll be having a blast. You never really have to grind, or if you want to, the game gives you side quests as incentive to level up when not rescuing anybody from the TV. I never really did many of them as I never really felt I had to grind. Now onto the social sim part of the game, the one that makes Persona different from other games, not talking about U1 and 2. You can spend your days doing a whole bunch of different things, such as going to work, or studying, fishing, or spending time with your favorite waifu. The game has social links, which are the different characters you can spend time with. The game has a total of 23 S-links, with some progressing through the story and others not taking up any time at all. You can create S-links with your party members, classmates, family members, and some people around town, meeting them through your part-time jobs or sports teams. Oh, and you can also romance the female social links, most of them at least. And to answer the question of who did I romance? On my first playthrough I romanced Yukiko, and that was because of Persona 5. In 5, I took too long to romance someone and missed out on some dates, so I didn't want that to happen. So I romanced Yukiko just to get that part over with, and I really don't regret it as her social link is really good and her dates were pretty heartwarming. On my second playthrough, I romanced Rise because I realized in my first one that I wanted to see how her romance plays out, and it was really good. And if I ever get around to playing through it as a whole again, I'm gonna go for Naoto because I'm quite curious. Now, the social link system is great because you never really get tired of any aspect of the game as you tend to switch so frequently. Whenever you get tired of doing stuff around town and spending time with your friends, you go into the TV to do some combat. Once you get tired of fighting, you spend some time around town. It's amazing. You just switch back and forth. The game does block off some content behind social links, which, much to my frustration and at the same time relief, led me having to play the game again from the beginning, from not getting the Adachi social link to where I needed to be able to unlock the true ending. I finished my first playthrough defeating Adachi and doing Marie's dungeon. Somehow I finished her social link and not Adachi's. I only realized that I missed something when my friend called me an absolute moron for not finishing Adachi's S-link, which in the second playthrough, knowing that he was the killer, just hit a little bit different. I was glad that I missed it since it gave me a reason to play the game again, knowing I had some more stuff that I didn't see, and boy did I miss stuff. I missed out on Izanami as a whole and that amazing climax, and the great epilogue giving us that little extra hit of Persona 4 Golden before the game completely ended. This game's message is about accepting yourself and the truth, and how that may not be the most glamorous thing, or how you may not even like what you see. It is the truth. Even though you may not like parts of who you are, they are there and you have to deal with them yourself to be the person that you want to be. I was forced to look within and reevaluate how I see myself. I couldn't live with the lies that I was telling myself, and I was forced to face myself just like the characters in the game. The concept of facing one's shadow is one that stems from the reality of life and having to deal every day trying to be the best you that you can be. If you can face your own shadow, then you can handle anything the world throws at you. I felt like a different person before and after playing this game. I became more aware of who I am, and now I push myself to change what I don't like. We only get one life, so why not be someone you like and admire? In conclusion, this is probably one of the best games I've ever played, and I now have a Persona addiction that I'm trying to satisfy with the spin-offs and SMT. I'm never gonna forget the night I finished this game at 4 AM feeling completely empty and being hit with that real post-Persona depression, and knowing that I'll never do that for the first time ever again. Now, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll be making more videos like these about other games and even movies that I have a personal connection with. So stick around if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.